Welcome all my lovely goblins and ghouls of the internet. I'm Hanya, your Demon Cinephile, and we are continuing our journey through the Saw franchise with Saw. It's Saw 4. Yeah, Saw 4. this one is this one has a little bit more special place in my heart. This is the first Saw movie I actually saw in theaters, and it's the very first Saw movie that really like I it's the one I had the most memories of really fucking with my mind with the twist. Could we see it coming? Did anyone see the twist coming the first go around? I'm curious, seeing when it actually did. But I just watched the movie. It's fresh in the noggin. This film we follow detective, not detective, Lieutenant Briggs, the SWAT officer that was seen in 2 and 3. After finding the body of Detective Carey, Briggs is feeling a little bit down the dumps because now both his friends, one of his friends is dead, and his other friend has been gone for about half a year, which we finally got a timeline explained. Apparently, the thing was explained in the other movie, but I probably missed it. So it's been 6 months since the events of Saw 2, and it's been about 4 days since Carrie, since Carrie was kidnapped in between when they found her body. So now, being down in the dumps, Detective Hoffman makes him take some time off, and as we're getting introduced to our new our secondary leads for the film, Detective Strawman, Stroffman, Special Agent Strom, and Special Agent Perez. How can I keep messing it up? The movies literally are in front of me. But yeah, these are two new characters for this film. They act as our secondary leads, while Riggs is following the formula that the movies are now taking as he goes through a series of traps and plays all these horrible, terrible games set up by Jigsaw. Speaking of traps, let's also mention a quick little prologue. This prologue is very prologue opening, same fucking thing really. So we got the this big burly guy with his eyes shown shut, and this squirmy little man with his mouth shown shut, and they are tied to this little turbine. It's gonna bring them all together with the chain that's wrapped around the neck, and the necks are gonna be snapped up and snapped and ground into the machine if they don't hurry up and survive. And the only way that the curly man, the scrawny man, can survive if he gets the key. Let's see, the key to his thing is just on the man, or on the burly man. And so why I'm talking like this, it just came out of nowhere. I don't really like this trap. It's very not as interesting, not as visually interesting, not as gory. The machine isn't as cool as the Phoenix Flytrap. It's kind of interesting because the two people playing the game have to fight against each other. The only bad part that I don't like is you never get to know anything about the Burly Man. You learn more about the one guy later in the movie, but not this guy. There's no tape explaining how the trap works. There's nothing explaining like how to do this or do that. I guess you can say it's all because of Amanda and the other apprentice, that they messed with the game. That there was a way to survive, but because Jigsaw didn't build this trap personally, it was more no options here. I don't know. The only thing I hate that I really noticed now. I don't know if I noticed the first couple times I watched this, is that the guy with his mouth shown shut as soon as he kills the guy who he has to get the key from, then all of a sudden he can finally rip open the stitches holding his mouth shut. Why wouldn't you try to do it earlier? Maybe it wasn't portrayed well. It was why couldn't you just rip it off and just tell him hey, calm down, just hold still. I'll get this key off your neck, then I can get the key off my neck if there is a key off his neck. I didn't know this one, and then we can both get out of here alive. Don't know. Don't know. Not my favorite opening. probably my least favorite opening so far. And probably testament to how much I hated it. Is that I didn't remember the scene at all. I mean, once I watched it, it kind of came back to me, but I remember it was supposed to be in this film. So, what is Detective Riggs' main story in this game? Well, Jigsaw blatantly puts it in the opening of his start of his game, is that he cares too much. He loves his friends. He wants to save everyone, but he can't save everyone. I mean, did you not listen to Spider-Ham? The sad thing about the shop, he can't save everyone. He can't save everyone. But Jigsaw wants him to know that you got sometimes you gotta step back and let people save themselves. Though the first trap he gets involved in is probably the one that made me kind of squirmish. Is this pimp who her hair is locked into this I'm not a mechanic. I don't know these terms, but a gear pulley thingy, and is gonna like basically scalp her. And when he can figure out the numbers of the lock, is to let it keep going and going until he can see the numbers are painted on the gears. Okay, that's cool. That's a cool idea. I love the effect of when you see the hair getting pulled, the editing getting a little more shaky. That crazy early 2000s weird shakiness that all these films have. And you see the skin the skin starting to rip off her scalp. It's like, ugh, no. And then when he gets her free, though, that's interesting, though. So, his game was to save her or to not save her. But her game was, if she lived, she had to kill him. And that was shocking. I forgot all about that part. And you can notice in the themes of all his games that he's actually playing the game. Or he's supposed to set the games up for other people. I think Jigsaw even said, like, oh, you can save her, or you cannot. And it's a fun thing about it. It shows the mentality of of this woman. Like, she'd rather probably go down for murder than just go back to jail as on her pimp charges. Wow, shows her priority right then and there. Another thing that all the people in this game were truly awful people. Probably like just like the convicts in part 2. All of them just like some of the worst human beings you can even imagine. Which is nice. I mean, it's not nice. I don't condone this. Not at all. Not at all. But it's a lot better than Jigsaw just like finding random excuses like, you don't value your life. So now I'm going to put you in this trap. And if you really want to live, you mutilate yourself. All because you take pictures of people without their consent. Jigsaw, there's a lot of nasty people out there in the world. You can focus on them and not focus on the hypocrites who don't fully appreciate what they have in life. Okay. The second game Lieutenant Riggs is forced to play is he has to lure this bad piece of shit into a hotel room. Wait, what does this guy do? What's wrong with him? What did he do? He cares. He's just working a late night job. He cares for his dog. What's wrong with him? And you see opening it to the room of the hotel. It's like, fuck this man. Fuck him to oblivion. I'm not sure if I can say this on YouTube. Let's just say he's a voyeur who likes to take pictures of his victims. That's all I can really say. And YouTube is very weird about these things. And like, well, at least you see this, and I love the editing. Because you get these quick little flashes to the black and white photos, but they're not black and white when they get to the camera. It's nasty, blurry. You can see how these women were treated, and it fuels your rage. It fuels that primal side of you. Like, you know what? No, fuck this man. Put him in the bed. Lock him into the trap, and let Jigsaw do his thing. And no, I'm gonna apologize for this one. No, fuck it. Fuck. When the trap ends and you can see him really get ripped limb from limb. Satisfying. So satisfying. Now the third game, he doesn't play this one. He doesn't play or observe this one. And for this one to make sense, we have to go back into a flashback because this, so far, this is the film with the most amount of flashbacks. So in this flashback, when Detective Riggs was just, I'm guessing the word you would use, just a standard officer, I'm not exactly sure. He was called in to basically see this little girl she who was supposedly being abused by her father. She wouldn't tell because she's too scared. And when the condescending asshole is just like, yeah, just kids don't know what they're talking about. Riggs straight up goes for it. He's like, yes, get the mother. And then we get to the connection where Riggs met the scrawny man from the beginning of the film, which is a lawyer. It's Art the Clown. It's not really Art the Clown, but his name is Art. I made the connection. For it, we'll call him Art the Clown throughout the rest of this review. But when we get to the game already happened. It was between the abusive piece of shit and his wife, where this one was like, it wasn't as gruely as the last two, but it was interesting how they were set up. So they're connected to this pillar, and they had these long skewers ripped between them. They going through her into him. Well, because how the skewers are set up, that they stayed in each other. They might be fine. They eventually might bleed out, but they might be fine. But if she wants to live, she wants to pull away from him. She needs to pull the skewers out. Now that she pulls out her, she won't be that badly injured. But when pulling out of him, they're cutting into each and every of his arteries. And I guess do it. More or less for Jigsaw to show him the aftermath of the game, because he has this whole thing for Riggs, like throughout for each challenge it's a motto: see what I see, judge how I judge, save as I save. And basically from what Strom says early in the film, that it feels like Jigsaw is trying to recruit Riggs. No, maybe kind of was. Maybe he wanted Riggs to see how he thinks and feels. Maybe create another accomplice. Or maybe just some weird form of sympathy from John. I mean, I'm not exactly sure on this one. And before we get to that, to the last part of the game, let's switch over to the B plot of this film, where we follow our new characters, Strom and Prez, as they basically follow catch up behind Riggs, because they believe that there's another accomplice. Because, as they say earlier in the film, there's no way John could have lifted Carrie into that device, or Amanda. But how did they know Amanda is an accomplice so far? You would think you would know you think they would know because the film opens with them examining John's body after the end of part 3. So, they think, okay, so this takes after part 3. But we know that's not the case at the end of the film. So how do they know that Amanda is the second Jigsaw? Is this a plot hole? And am I missing something? Please let me know in the comments. As they follow up behind and catch up with Riggs, they bring in Jill Tuck. Jill Tuck is the person you saw in the flashbacks during part 3. She is John's ex-wife. And this is where we get the whole series of flashbacks, which my brain really thought was scattered throughout the whole of the later films. But apparently they're all in part 4. So we get the full, more detailed backstory of John Kramer and the birth of Jigsaw. So John was an engineer. We knew that from the other movies, but we learned that he was married to Jill, who ran this clinic. And one night, while helping some druggie named Cecil, he broke into the clinic, basically scaring Jill, Then he made his escape, threw open the big heavy metal door against her pregnant belly, causing her and John to lose the baby. John goes into this deep depression spiral, and then eventually he kind of separates himself from Jill. Then we learn that eventually that's when he got the test from Dr. Gordon, and that goes with the result of him trying to self-delete himself. Now we got the full picture of the backstory to Jigsaw. It's more complicated than the backstory. I like the finer details, but was it too much? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how more and more detailed it becomes throughout the franchise, because I know we're missing certain things. It all kind of goes together with John separating himself from his friends, which you get Art the Clown, which follows with him putting Cecil, the man who killed their unborn child, into this gnarly knife face thing. So he's basically crucified in this chair. He's bound to it by the stabbing through the legs and the arms and the whatnots, and he's gonna bleed out. But if he wants to survive, he has to push his face against these 6 blades, basically scarring him up, turning him into a literal jigsaw. But he actually does it, which okay, that's kind of cool. But John doesn't kill him. I mean, so what happens is he actually cuts his face, makes it out of there, instead of learning his lesson or trying to escape or doing anything remotely sensible. He tries to intimidate and kill the man, which, yeah, some of us will probably do. And then John just jumps out of the way. Cecil falls into the trap you see in the first movie, the barbed wire trap, where he gets tangled up and cuts himself again and again and again. Okay, that was fun. And John's like, yeah, it's gonna happen. He's gonna do it. He just steps out of the way. But I do like how they characterize Jigsaw during this scene, because he's not evil looking. He's preaching. He always preaches. You can see him, like, he's watching intently, like he's taking notes, like how he's going to improve his craft later on in the films. They bring Jill into the police station. Strahm plays the obsessive, crazy ass, which, to be fair, you can't fully blame them. They've been searching for Jigsaw for years. They've been trying to get this guy down. She's been a suspect for a while. They can understand why he's being like this. But also, side note, how long has it been in this universe that Jigsaw's been doing all this? So the first film came out in 2004. These films are mostly following chronologically. So let's just assume that part 4 takes place in 2006. It's 2006. How long has John been doing this? He's only been about 2 to 3 years, but when Riggs is in the station, there's books about John Kramer. And there's one book that shows kind of who he was before all this. But there's also books about him being Jigsaw, how he became Jigsaw, the mind of a killer. How long has this been going on? It feels like it's because the first one it's kind of like an urban legend that not everyone knows about Jigsaw. But of how those books are, you think Jigsaw is known worldwide. But later in the film, when the abuser a-hole is being tormented by the machine, when Riggs plays his tape, he doesn't recognize John's voice. Maybe he doesn't need to recognize the voice, but it's okay, I'm in this weird scenario. There's a big trap-like thing attached to the bed, and there's his cassette tape with a man telling me he wants to play a game. You'd think you would know, this has to be Jigsaw or something like that. I mean, it should be common knowledge about who Jigsaw and John Kramer are at this point. So at this point, how they know about Amanda, unless they take it as they never found Amanda's body during the sting on the house in part 2. So I'm guessing that's how they assumed that she was an accomplice. I have no idea. I was going to mention we had 2 gnarly scenes One where after examining the couple fight, domestic abuse scandal, the photographer who's been taking pictures of the entire at each case that they go throughout the film, she just she's just doing nothing. She's minding her own business, taking pictures. Cause that's her job. She's good at it. And then some fucker who's playing with, I'm not even sure why that tool was there, sets it off. A spike flies out and rams her in the head and connecting her to the door, to the wall. It's like, that poor girl just minding her own goddamn business. She's gone. She's gone. Second scene in that school is when Perez goes into this classroom where they find another Billy the Puppet. It starts clinking and turning. You hear a little noise in it. The tape it plays is directed towards her. And I know they kind of explain, they're really saying that she's kind of a trainee, that she's kind of young, so she probably hasn't been in this game that long. But why, in the love of God, is her first thought when she hears a churning inside the doll is to put her face closer and closer to it. So when the doll explodes, the face explodes and shrapnel buries itself into her face. She's so dumb. Okay, I'm sorry, but you knew what you're doing. You know what you're dealing with. You know Jigsaw. You know it's all about traps in games. Why would you put your face so close to the stupid puppet? And she's in critical right now. I don't remember this character ever comes back. She didn't die. We know that for sure. She did not die. And this film likes to set things up. Like during the flashbacks, we see John building the glass coffin with the shards of glass at the bottom. That will pop up later in part 5 or part 6. I'm not sure. We'll see later down the line. Because God forbid he just gotta keep setting things up and up and up and up and up and up. Yeah. Maybe the Marvel movies took a lot from the Saw franchise than we thought. Like, that's how we set things up. He just randomly throws shit in. Yeah, this video is being kind of long. Me just ranting and talking. Let's get to the end. So the final game for Riggs is to get to the Ironworks, or wherever the building is, the Gideon factory, where he has to save Detective Hoffman. Remember the characters introduced in the last movie for literally only one scene, and he has to save Detective Matthews because Matthews is back. And where has Matthews been? He's been in the tunnels underneath that house. The new accomplice put his broken foot into this leg brace, put him in a person jumpsuit, has been feeding him scraps for 6 months. And he looks, he's a broken shell of a man, basically. When we see him tied up, like dangling from a chain around his neck, barely standing on this big block of ice so he doesn't strangle himself. Like, God, the writer for these films really either really hate Donnie Wahlberg, or they really hate this character. This man gets put through so much abuse. Yeah, I get he was a dirty, corrupt cop at the in the second movie. But at this point, just kill him. Just kill him. It can't be. He paid for his sins. He had to pay for his sins at this point. Then we show that the person hosting this game, just kind of how Zepp was hosting it in the first movie, is Art the Clown. He has some weird device strapped to his spine. We never know what he's supposed to do. But when Riggs gets close, he's supposed to not intervene. He's not supposed to save anyone. He's supposed to let everyone save themselves. That is his test. And because his sin is mostly caring too much, let's be honest, that's what his sin is. He just cares too much. He opens the door and he opens the door, he shoots Art the Clown, And when he opens the door, it triggers the trap, and two giant icicles, ice cubes, squish Detective Matthews' head. Like, beautiful, beautiful scene. Mwah! Love the gore. The water tips, in the little pool that they're in. Detective Hoffman supposedly gets electrocuted, and Arthur comes like, "No, you stupid idiot! You're the boss of White. That's what's your test. That's what's your test. He's testing you. Jigsaw's testing you." And while he's screaming all that, trying to reach for another tape, he's not listening to the cop who just shot him. He's not listening to the cop who's telling him to stop, don't move, and Riggs blows his brains out right before the tape plays. And then we get to the big reveal that dun 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 dun. It's Hoffman. Hoffman is the third Jigsaw. He's the other accomplice. But I think when I first watched it, remember, I was still kind of a wee bit honyo at the time when this came out. I remember being very, very surprised. I wouldn't say it was obvious this time around, most because I have the memory of Hoffman being the accomplice. He's basically the main villain throughout the whole series, at least through the original set of films. So, was it set up good? Yes and no. Throughout the whole second act, the B plot of the film, Strom is certain that there is another accomplice. He sets it on Riggs. He thinks Riggs is being recruited. So it makes sense that Hoffman, being a detective, would be the next accomplice. It kind of set it up like that, but Hoffman is never like a big deal that he is the helper. And he kind of set it up in the beginning where he and Strom are having a little argument where like, oh no, Amanda couldn't set Carrie up there. She's not strong enough. And he's trying to throw it off like, yeah, but John was an engineer. He could have made some pulley thing like, nope, not his style. There has to be a third person. And he's just looking all pissed and annoyed, like it's kind of like that. It's a little obvious now, but then I already know the twist, so I'm not sure if I'm a good judge on that right there. And the big, huge twist at the end of the film is that this takes place at the exact same time as Saw 3. There's little hints throughout the film. They do their little jumpy flashback where they tear apart the cat box and show you how everything connects together. And this was a cool twist. I remember my little self being blown the fuck away when this happened in theaters. Like, oh no, it's taking place at the same time as the last movie. It's taking place at the same time as the last movie. It kind of goes and it does and doesn't. It goes with it. Like, I'm not sure. I can remember how important this little twist is in the later films. Maybe it's just there to set up like why certain things are happening. But also, it also kind of explains why they always refer to John as kind of like alive throughout the film. But it also doesn't explain how they know Amanda was the second Jigsaw, because they find her body at the end of this movie, which is also the end of part 3. So they would find her body there, they would figure out that she is the second Jigsaw. But here's like, and I'm thinking back, like, when did they get the information that she was already an accomplice? Was something was said in part 3? But part 3 doesn't have any officers, doesn't have any detective characters, except for the opening. So I have no idea where they got the information and knowledge that Amanda was the second Jigsaw, unless they just took into account that since they could not find her body at the end of part 2, they just assumed that she must have been an accomplice. Or maybe Daniel, Detective Matthew's son, maybe he said something to tip them off. I don't know. I actually had to put all this together for the film. Maybe it's explained somewhere in the video games, which I think are canon. I don't know. Maybe we can play those on stream one day. I'll try to figure that out. Yeah, but this is Saw 4. And Jeff gets killed by Strom because because who cares about Jeff? Jeff is an idiot who got his wife killed and because he couldn't let go. Yeah, fuck Jeff. I understand his rage and pain, but he made the wrong decisions, absolute wrong decision each and every time during his chance in the third film. But this was all for. What did you think about it? Did you hate it? Did you like it? Put it down in the comments down below. This probably still is my favorite Saw film. I'm not sure why. Like I said, this is the first one I ever saw in theaters. It has a bit of a special place in my heart. It's not as emotional as Saw 3, which if I had to go on this part, I still say Saw 3 is probably the best movie so far in terms of acting wise. If I'm going to go from gore, special effect wise, I had to give it to part 2. This one, I think, is a lot more action oriented. Like, it's not fight scenes, but it has the momentum of the film. The editing, how everything's put together, the quick cuts. It has a bit more of an energy to the film. It kind of feels like it's a race against time, which all the other films are like that, but here I felt it a little bit more. But I kind of like this one. I really did love Riggs. I don't know who's this actor. Yeah, his name is Lyric Bent. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Yeah, but he was great. Probably right next to Matthews, starring Wahlberg. He's probably my second favorite. No, I think I kind of like him a little bit more than Donnie Wahlberg. I really love his reactions to everything, like to go with the flow. I love when the woman he just say comes at him with a knife. He's like, "Whoa, what are you doing?" I loved it. Yeah, he probably is my favorite protagonist. Sad that he dies. But also kind of cool that we kind of saw him being built up from his side role in part 2, his little mini role in part 3, and this one right here. So it's kind of cool to see his character being built up throughout these films. It'd probably been neat if he got the same for Hoffman, if he also had an appearance in part 2. Just put into our minds that, oh yeah, he's always kind of been there from the very beginning. But no, we had to rely on flashbacks in later films to get that information. But yeah, this was Saw 4. Where does this rank in your films, your ranking of the films? Please let me know. I'm very curious to see what you had to say. And I will see you all next time for Saw 5. Catch you later.